What if Guillermo del Toro returned to direct Hellboy 3? Well, he almost did, and it would have featured Hellboy fulfilling his apocalyptic destiny to bring about the end of civilization in an epic, super violent conclusion to the trilogy. So let's dive in and find out why it didn't happen and also take a look at what could have been Hellboy 3. Before we dive in, a huge shout out to this video's sponsor, Mando. Mando was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how often normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated, and how traditional deodorants were just masking the problem instead of solving it. That's why Mando is different. It's powered by mandelic acid, which works to stop odor before it even starts. Think of it as a pre-odorant. It's not just effective, it's clinically proven to control odor better than soap and water alone. For instance, 12 hours after a shower, most guys are sitting at a solid 5 out of 10 on the odor scale. With Mando, 0. You'll smell great and feel fresh for up to 72 hours. However, it's not just a deodorant, it's a high-performance whole-body deodorant. You can use it everywhere, and I mean everywhere. Plus, it comes in 4 unique scents: Bourbon Leather, Clover Woods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. Prefer no fragrance? There's an unscented option too. For a limited time, Mando has a variety of holiday bundles available on their website, so it's a perfect time to stock up on Mando products if you're a new or returning customer. The scents of the Mando products I received are another reason I'm hooked, since each is unique and fits different moods. Mount Fuji has a clean, refreshing blend of eucalyptus and wild mint that feels like a crisp mountain morning, while Pro Sport's freshwater and citrus scent is energizing and perfect for everyday wear. Bourbon Leather, with its rich mix of leather, tobacco, and vanilla, is warm and bold. Personally, I genuinely love how versatile and effective their products are. On days when I can't fit in the shower until later, the deodorant wipes are an absolute game changer. They're quick, convenient, and keep me feeling fresh and smelling great no matter where I am. Mando's Invisible Cream Whole Body Deodorant is so easy to use, and it's completely changed how I think about deodorant. It rubs in like lotion, making it simple to apply anywhere on my body. Mando's holiday bundles are a great deal for new and returning customers, and just for my followers, Mando is offering an extra $5 off plus free US shipping on orders over $30 when you order in the link below in the description and enter code BB5 at checkout. Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy saga was always meant to be a trilogy with a beginning, middle, and end. And while we got the beginning and middle with the first 2 films, we never got the ending to complete the trilogy. Del Toro envisioned each Hellboy film with a distinct personality. The first embraced a pulpy comic book style, while the second leaned into fairy tales, mythology, and humor. The third would have shifted dramatically, delivering a grand, operatic conclusion, a tragic tale of the end of days, as Hellboy fulfills his destiny. The first film establishes this apocalyptic destiny, as Hellboy is summoned through a portal during World War II by Rasputin and the Nazis in a ritual to unleash the Ogdru Jihad, ancient demonic entities capable of bringing about the apocalypse. Hellboy is revealed to be the key to their release, with his right hand of doom acting as the mechanism to unlock their prison. By the film's climax, his true nature emerges as his horns grow, symbolizing his readiness to fulfill this dark purpose. However, Hellboy defies his destiny, breaking off his horns and rejecting his demonic heritage in favor of humanity and free will. While the first 2 films explore this struggle against his apocalyptic role, the planned 3rd installment would have brought this story full circle, finally having him come to terms with the fact that his destiny is to become the beast of the apocalypse. And he becomes the beast of the apocalypse in order to defend humanity and vanquish the foe that he has to face in the 3rd film. But by doing so, he becomes a much darker being. The foundation of the story would have been Hellboy taking down civilization, and it would have resolved all of the aspects about him that were introduced in the first 2 films. The result was going to be dramatic, super violent, biblical in nature, and also influenced by Greek mythology. It also would have been expensive, as we'd finally see hell unleashed on Earth, bringing Hellboy's apocalyptic destiny to its dramatic conclusion. Unlike the previous films, which never showed hell directly and only hinted at the end of days, this installment would have seen hell engulf the Earth, with physical demons crossing over to wreak havoc on the mortal plane, marked by widespread destruction and death. The scale of the film, described as apocalyptic in tone, would have required a massive increase in budget to depict the fiery devastation and demon invasion. Del Toro envisioned a grand, operatic finale, tying Hellboy's destiny to the literal destruction of the world. Del Toro has also called the 3rd film bittersweet, tragic, and heartbreaking. This aligns with the subtle foreshadowing in Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, where the Angel of Death warns Liz about the cost of staying by Hellboy's side. The Angel ominously hints that Hellboy's apocalyptic destiny could lead to devastating consequences, asking Liz if she's prepared to endure the inevitable loss and telling her that she will suffer more than anyone. Liz's response, that she would do anything to save Hellboy because she can't live without him, suggests a future sacrifice on her part. This moment, paired with the tragic tone Del Toro envisioned for the final chapter implies that Liz might have played a pivotal and heartbreaking role in the ultimate resolution of Hellboy's destiny, possibly even giving her life to save him or stop the apocalypse. Hellboy 2 also ends with Liz revealing to Hellboy that she's having twins. One would look like Liz and the other would look like Hellboy, and one of them was going to be completely corrupt. However, Del Toro wanted to make the angelic looking one corrupt and the messed up looking one the angel. For Hellboy 2, Del Toro had planned a post-credit scene that would have featured billionaire madman Roderick Zinco entering an Antarctic Nazi lab. Once inside, he reassembles Cronin, while Rasputin, with a gaping hole in his chest, watches and says, "And so shall be the end of it all." Del Toro felt it was the perfect coda for the film, and a beautiful setup for the third movie. However, there was no way he could accommodate the scene with the film's budget, or the time left in the shooting schedule. So why did the third film never happen? Ron Perlman was 57 when he made the second one, and not only did he say a third one would kill him in terms of how physically demanding the role is for a guy of his age, but he also said it was a pain to put that makeup on and take it off each day, which took a total of 4 hours, 6 if he was shirtless. However, while he said he didn't want to make a third one, he felt a sense of obligation to finish the story, saying, "It's worth it because anyone who sits and listens to Del Toro's version of how this thing ends is completely seduced. It's so theatrical and compelling, and if you like the first two movies in any way, shape, or form, this is the ultimate 1-2 punch." For her part, Selma Blair, who played Liz, was diagnosed with MS in 2018. On Hellboy 3, Blair would say, "It would be the biggest payoff and the biggest horror and the greatest third installment ever written that I wish I could play more than anything in the world." But she admitted that since the film is tackling the apocalypse, that it won't be cheap to shoot. And while Del Toro would love to make it, the harsh realities of the film industry have made it nearly impossible. The first film made its budget back and a little profit, but then was very big on home video and DVD. Combined with the fact that Pan's Labyrinth was a critical and commercial hit, gave Del Toro the cachet to make the second film. But just like the first one, Hellboy 2 also only made a small profit, making most of its money on home video. However, with the advent of streaming, the safety net of DVD and Blu-ray sales as a means to make additional profit no longer exists. And because these films were never massive box office hits, studios have been reluctant to finance a third installment. The hesitation is compounded by the fact that the third film would require a budget of $120 million to fully realize its apocalyptic vision. Del Toro would go on to say, "If I was a multi-millionaire, I would finance it myself, but I spend all my money on rubber monsters." As it looked like Hellboy 3 wouldn't happen, Universal was still interested in mining the IP and approached Peter Briggs, who wrote the first Hellboy film alongside Del Toro, to write a spin-off centering on Prince Nuada from Hellboy 2. However, even though Prince Nuada died at the end of the film, Briggs agreed to write it with the promise that he would also direct it. Titled Hellboy Silverlance, Briggs finally solved the Nuada problem. While Hellboy was still planned to be featured in the film, Abe Sapien would have been the main character, and after moving into their new Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense headquarters in Colorado, Abe finds himself still troubled by a psychic connection to Princess Nuala from Hellboy 2. As a result, he delves into the history of Nuala and Nuada, uncovering Nuada's rivalry with a scheming fairy courtier who plots to seize control of the fairy kingdom and win Nuala's hand in marriage, ultimately orchestrating the events that lead to Nuada's exile. The movie would have had a sort of Highlander structure to it, as we'd see Nuada at different points in time throughout the centuries, including his first meeting with Mr. Wink in Spain during the Spanish Inquisition, where Nuada saves Wink from a troop of soldiers, as well as Nuada in Nazi Germany in World War II, engineering a pact to keep various supernatural entities unharmed from the conflict. We also would have seen Nuada and Cronin fighting in a friendly bout for a bunch of Project Ragnarok goons too. The film would have climaxed at the BPRD Colorado headquarters. The plan was for the film to be the first in a series of spin-off films titled From the Files of the BPRD. For a brief moment, however, it looked like Del Toro's Hellboy 3 might still be a possibility, resulting in Silverlance being shelved. However, once Hellboy 3 was cancelled for good, Universal asked Briggs to rewrite the Silverlance script to remove Hellboy from it, although he did manage to include a quick cameo during the climax. Regardless, once Universal decided to reboot Hellboy, that spelled the end of Hellboy Silverlance. From here, Hellboy creator Mike Mignola began work with writer Andrew Cosby on a new story for a third film. They'd eventually be joined by Neil Marshall, director of The Descent, and while they originally tried to tie it to the Del Toro universe and continue those movies, once Ron Perlman refused to star in it without Del Toro directing, and Del Toro refused to come aboard as a producer, it became evident to the team that it might be best to reboot the series, especially since it would be difficult and somewhat disingenuous to try and copy Del Toro's signature style. The reboot would end up being a critical and commercial flop, with actor David Harbour, who donned the horns as the new Big Red, blaming the film's failure on fans' strong desire to see a conclusion to Del Toro's trilogy. Although director Neil Marshall was more blunt, disowning the film, saying it was just god-awful. I signed up to it because they pitched this idea of doing the horror version of Hellboy, and then I quickly found out that A, the script was terrible, and B, it was never going to get much better before we shot it, despite many attempts. You can't polish a turd, no matter how much you try, and I would have all the creative control taken away from me to extreme levels. There's nothing of me in that movie. Del Toro would eventually approach Hellboy creator Mike Mignola with the idea of creating a Hellboy 3 comic book adaptation for fans who wanted to see the trilogy complete, but Mignola turned him down, feeling it would be too confusing for audiences to have two different versions of the Hellboy comic out there, telling Del Toro to let the comics be the comics and the movies the movies. Ron Perlman has said, if you were loyal enough to us, where you came and watched both those two movies that we made, we owe you a resolve. And it was a shame the audience, who had hung in with us for the first two films, were deprived of seeing that finish, because it would have been a big, beautiful finish. Ultimately, Del Toro's ambitious vision for Hellboy 3, combined with the underperformance of the first two movies, as well as the passage of time, have killed any possibility for the third film ever happening, with Del Toro himself stating that 100% the sequel will not happen. Still, the legacy of their Hellboy endures, leaving fans to imagine the apocalyptic finale that might have been. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Bullets and Blockbusters for more great content.